So, let's dig into a question that I think is on every donor's mind. How do you really know your money is making a difference? We're going to break down why clear audit reporting isn't just about spreadsheets and numbers. It's actually the very foundation of trust between you and the causes you care about.
Okay, think about it. It's the question every single one of us has, right, when we're about to click that donate button. You find a cause that speaks to you, you give your hard-earned money, and then what happens? How can you be absolutely sure it's creating real change and not just, getting lost in bureaucracy?
At the end of the day, it all boils down to one word: trust. You're putting your faith in an organization to do the right thing with your money. And as we're about to see, that trust is incredibly powerful, but man, it can also be incredibly fragile.
All right, so let's start with the big challenge here, which is this real crisis of confidence that a lot of donors are feeling. There's a ton of skepticism out there, and honestly, for some pretty good reasons.
70%. Burn that number into your brain. For so many donors, this is the magic number. It's the absolute minimum they expect to see going directly to a charity's programs, not to administrative costs. It's become this kind of unofficial benchmark, and it's a huge reason why people get skeptical.
And this skepticism actually has a name in economics: information asymmetry. It sounds kind of fancy, but it's a really simple idea. The charity knows exactly where every penny of your money is going, but you, the donor, you're often left with a pretty fuzzy picture. And it's in that gap, that lack of information, where all the doubt and suspicion starts to grow.
And listen, this is not just some academic theory. Let's look at a major real-world example. Back in 2019, one of the absolute biggest charities in the US made a decision that sent some serious shockwaves through the nonprofit world, and it created a massive one of these information gaps.
So this is the case of Compassion International. In 2019, after a huge disruption to their work in India, they did something pretty shocking. They reclassified their organization as an association of churches. Now, that might sound like a minor change, but legally, it meant they could stop filing their public Form 990. And the Form 990, that's not just some boring tax form. It's the key to transparency for nonprofits. It's where you see where the money comes from, where it goes, all the expenses, even how much the executives make. So to just stop filing it, that's like a public company suddenly deciding not to release its quarterly earnings report. Unsurprisingly, the reaction was fast and harsh. Watchdogs like Charity Navigator just dropped them. And you can see here, Ministry Watch's confidence score took a nosedive. It sent a very clear message to donors: we're not showing you the books anymore.
And this is where it gets really damaging. An incident like this doesn't just hurt one charity. It creates what researchers call a moral disillusionment effect. Basically, we hold nonprofits to this really high ethical standard, right? So when a big one breaks that trust, it can make us cynical and start to question all of them. The whole sector takes a hit.
Okay, so that's the problem. It's a big one. But here's the good news. There is a really powerful solution. Let's talk about the antidote to all this skepticism. And that is, simply, radical transparency.
And believe me, this is exactly what donors are asking for. A staggering 93% of donors say transparency is absolutely essential for them to keep giving. I mean, the message could not be any louder or clearer. Just show us the numbers.
And the payoff for being transparent? It's huge. The data shows that when an organization commits to clear governance and open reporting, donor trust can shoot up by a full 12%. That's a direct, measurable reward for just being open and honest about how you operate.
So what does this look like when a charity gets it right? It's one thing to talk about transparency in the abstract, but let's look at a real best-in-class example of what this looks like in practice. Take a look at this. This is a breakdown of how Children International spent its money in 2024. See that enormous blue slice? That's 80% of their entire budget going directly to programs. Now remember that 70% benchmark we talked about? They're not just meeting it, they are absolutely blowing past it. This is exactly the kind of clear, compelling visual that makes donors feel confident.
And that level of commitment, it definitely doesn't go unnoticed. It's earned them a perfect score from Charity Navigator for accountability and the Platinum Seal Transparency from Candid. You can think of these as the absolute gold stars of the nonprofit world. They're a clear, third-party signal that this organization's house is in order.
Now, true accountability really comes in two essential flavors. On one hand, you have financial audits. I like to think of this as the what. They check the math and make sure the money was managed responsibly. But then, and this is so important, you have performance audits. This is the so what. They go beyond the spreadsheets to see if the money actually made a real-world impact. They do field visits, they talk to people, they verify the results, and you absolutely have to have both to get the complete picture.
So how can other organizations build this kind of trust? Well, it's not some kind of magic trick. There's actually a pretty clear, actionable blueprint that any nonprofit can follow to implement this kind of transparency.
It really comes down to 3 key steps. First, you have to track every single dollar, all the way from the moment of donation to the moment it creates impact. Second, you create detailed financial statements, but, and this part is key, you add context. You tell the story behind the numbers. And finally, step 3, you have to share everything in a way that's actually accessible. No jargon, lots of visuals, just plain language anyone can understand.
All right, so let's wrap all this up by bringing the focus back to the most important person in this entire conversation, you, the informed donor. Because at the end of the day, you have a massive role to play in all of this.
I think this quote from Esther Seihan Lee just says it all perfectly. Fundraising isn't a one-time transaction. It's not about the ask. The entire relationship, from the very beginning to the very end, is built on a foundation of trust.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It's that all this reporting, all these audits, it's not about compliance paperwork. For you, the donor, it's the bridge. It's the thing that connects your act of generosity to real, tangible results. It's what transforms a simple donation into a confident, lasting relationship with a cause you believe in.
And that really leaves us with one final question to think about. Now that you know what to look for, the clear financial reports, the program spending ratios, those third-party ratings, the next time you're ready to give, what are you going to look for? What will be the thing that tells you your trust is in the right place?